Dave Aranda knows he has a great football team. So what has he done? He has devised the toughest schedule in college football.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Game Time and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. Joining me on this Wednesday after a hiatus last week, which was entirely my fault, Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6 on this Wicker Wednesday. We're going to talk through some big-time news or some big-time predictions around this Baylor football team, why one outlet is saying they have the toughest non-conference schedule in all of college football and what that means for this team, plus the NFL draft expert that throws out this little hint that Sawyer Robertson could end up being the number one pick in the draft. Yeah, kind of. And since Memphis has been stuffed in a locker from the Big 12, who would we actually want if we had to add another team? All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Sydney Wicker, 1 to 10, with 12 being the highest. Your excitement level for the fact that we are just, 5 weeks away here from Baylor college football on the Brazos?
15.
Yes.
Come on. I'm
Yes.
so excited. It just I keep seeing my favorite thing to do in the summertime is rewatch old games and sit on my couch. And I can't stop doing it. I know I don't get to enjoy a lot of Saturdays sitting on my couch because I'm out on the sidelines, but usually I get to catch 1 or 2 games, whether that's the earlier games or the late games, depending on whatever my kickoff is. But I'm so pumped. I miss it. I miss sweating my butt off, running across the sidelines. It's just a thrill, and it cannot come soon enough. It's crazy that it's knocking on our doors a month from now.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I know you've probably seen the tweets by now, too, of that lineup for August 31st,
Yes.
the first Saturday. It looks unbelievable. And then you get the perfect precursor to it, because Baylor's actually playing on Friday. On that would be August 29th. The 30th is what I was talking about earlier, not the 31st. Disregard that. The 29th is when Baylor kicks off against Auburn. And that's kind of the cool part, is you started off on a Friday night. The eyes of the nation are upon you, and you've got this big-time matchup, which has led On 3 to saying that the Baylor Bears, our Baylor Bears, have the toughest non-conference schedule in America. A little bit of a mix here in this top 10 here, Sydney. Obviously, some power teams. Some of those ones that are having a couple buy-in games. I'm looking at you, Ohio. I'm looking at you, Kent State. I bet they both have a trip to the Horseshoe coming up, if I had to guess, in late August, early September. But what do you make of that before we get into the two matchups that I don't think they're talking about Samford first off? Before we get into those two matchups, what do you make of that? Baylor, the top non-conference schedule in all of college football.
It's so funny how things shape out to be the way that they are. I don't know if a lot of people realize how far out scheduling for things like this goes, but it's true. This is going to be a tough slate. We've talked about it many times, Cam, back and forth. It's no joke. Baylor is going to have they're going to learn a lot about themselves in their first 4 weeks alone. And we're going to learn a lot about who this team is and how they respond and what level they can play up to or overcome even. So I think it says a lot. I actually was looking at Miami's schedule just to compare and TCU's schedule of their first 4 games. And I really just feel like Baylor does truly have the toughest schedule. Miami has, Miami, I think it was Miami or TCU. I can't remember. One of them has UNC. TCU, and I'm just we don't know really this UNC. We think they're going to be good because of Bill Belichick and, for his sakes, maybe they will be good. But, he's still, walking into a program that he has a lot of work to do and a lot to develop. So is that really, a tough game that we're circling as the toughest?
That's a great point. TCU should be favored in that game.
Should be.
We don't know anything about Carolina. We don't know.
We don't. They haven't proven anything yet. We can't really call that a tough game right now. So,
they just get indoctrinated with these new big time coaches because they were also Deion's first game at Colorado, a game that TCU lost. But yeah, that is an intriguing one. Of course, I think that's what it is. It's just an intrigue factor to put them up at in the top 3 there for TCU. And Baylor, I feel like it's gotten more to it. Because it is a Friday game, like there's something to that because it's the only game on that schedule. And it feels like Auburn's kind of gotten this momentum throughout the summer. I don't necessarily know what it is. I think Auburn probably is one of those preseason top 25 teams towards the tail end just because of, what they added in the portal. That's what we see in college football now. They added quite a few starters in the portal, including quarterbacks and big-time receivers. But it just kind of feels like off of 5-7, another 5-7, they just keep getting this momentum throughout June and July. And all of a sudden, they're favorites in this game against Baylor. But you talk about, projecting it a couple years out. And like 5-6 years ago, this was just kind of a more or less a common schedule, right? Like Auburn is uncommon, an SEC team week 1, home and home. But it was like, oh, okay, then that's the year that we get a good week 1 matchup. But then after that, it's SMU, who we've scheduled in the non-con a billion times since I've been a Baylor fan. Like that's just how it happens. They're never a threat. And then Samford. So you got like your big game, your nice game to have on the schedule, but you should win it comfortably. That's what SMU always was. And bye game, Samford, gotta win it, right? And now when it's actually come to fruition, it's like if you had told me 5 years ago one of those first 2 opponents going to be coming off a college football playoff, I don't think we would have said SMU. And we're going to all tune in somehow in the CW after One Tree Hill. And we're going to watch that Baylor SMU game. Is that one like sneaky good? We talk about week 2 being kind of a weird week for the schedule. That's got to be sneaky one of the biggest games in the country.
Definitely a sneaky game. I think that's why, like going back to a couple weeks ago when we talked about like why is this game on the CW? Like
it shouldn't be.
It makes sense. Yeah. But like when you do look at a bunch of week 2 matchups, like that really is going to be one of the better matchups, especially if Baylor wins against Auburn. Like that just immediately makes it a little more enticing, a little more intriguing. Like it's going to carry a little more weight if Baylor does win that first one. So I don't know. It's such an interesting like week 2 game, like you said, kind of a sneaky one, kind of a sleeper too. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at week 2 and they're like, oh crap, Baylor plays SMU. Like I think it's going to throw people off a lot too who maybe like don't like or just people who just like looking to bet. Like that's going to be a game that like I don't know. I wouldn't bet on that one if it was me. Because it's going to be a sneaky one either way. I think it'll be a close fight regardless. So it's just one of those games that kind of sneaks up on you and you look at it and you're like, oh, that's a good one. By the way,
Miami opens up with Notre Dame. Then the mighty Bethune-Cookman Cooks, I believe, and South Florida, and then they get the Gators. So 2 big-time opponents in those first 4 weeks. Real quick, last thing on this. Style points-wise, it's not supposed to factor in for a 12-team playoff, but we know it does. It inevitably is going to. And with how we've kind of seen the game played, with how the committee looks at the Big 12 in general, how important is this? Just having those first 2 games, almost regardless of whether they win or lose. Obviously, if you lose both, it's not going to help you at all. But if you go 1-1 in those games, versus SMU and Auburn, as opposed to UTSA and Rice, that's got to help long term, right?
Oh, for sure. Like that, I think with the Baylor team that we're expecting to see, like this is setting them up for what not almost you can expect for the season, but it's going to set the tone. That's something a lot of the guys had talked about at Big 12 Media Days, especially Sawyer. I remember him saying like, this game's going to set the standard for our season. So if you are able to get a win in that first, second week, maybe even both, gosh, that's only going to build momentum and really carry in to Big 12 play. And when you start your conference schedule against another team that was in the college football playoffs, well, you already have a little comfortability of having an experience of playing those tough teams. So I just think it only makes you better.
The losses early on don't necessarily hurt you, looking at you, Notre Dame, but the wins early on always get remembered. So that's huge. It's going to be interesting because Dave Aranda's talked about so much throughout his time about these games where they just weren't ready to go. They weren't ready in the early going. Well, now it's your season, Dave. Okay. We're throwing you into the fire. So Baylor, number one non-conference schedule in all of college football. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. We know a huge part of whatever success the Bears have this year is going to come down to Sawyer Robertson. We love him. Sydney and I, we're huge fans, but we're still waiting for the nation to get on board. A huge NFL draft expert might have just put the nation on notice. Let's talk about it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from Game Time in my very weird layout here. If you're watching on YouTube, we're almost there. We are almost there. We go. Game Time. Look, guys, you want to get out there and you want to get to the ballpark or the stadium whenever it's a big game for your team. Like watching it on TV is great. But if you're like me, I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of suddenly realized I want to be there. That's where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. They make buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. So easy to browse the app. Like, look, the summertime, the weather's nice. You want to get out to an MLB game, maybe even in an air-conditioned ballpark in the great state of Texas. Game Time's the place to do it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Back with it with Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6 on this Wicker Wednesday. We've kind of talked already about Baylor having the toughest non-conference schedule in the country. And it goes without saying, anywhere Baylor goes this year, Sawyer Robertson's probably going to take them there. There's a ton of talent on this team. Don't get us wrong. But when you have the quarterback, that covers a ton of ills. And we think Baylor has the quarterback. Sydney, I think I'm speaking for, am I okay to speak for you in that sense that we think Baylor's got the quarterback this year?
I'll let you say that for me, Cam.
Thank you. Thank you. I never want to speak for Sydney Wicker on Wicker Wednesdays, but I think we've talked about it enough that we're both on board. And this has been like back and forth, right? We thought a couple months ago, like Sawyer's getting the recognition. I had my worst list of the week, first segment on Monday that said he wasn't as good as Devin Dampier because Andy Staples really likes when the quarterback runs the football. So he's got Avery Johnson and Devin Dampier ahead of him for some reason. And then it's kind of, I saw this video, Sydney, and it took me off guard in the best way possible. There are few people I respect more on their opinions, especially looking at quarterbacks, than Pete Souza's friend, Todd McShay, the NFL draft expert. It's a tough science to do, but Todd McShay is pretty good at it. And he has some glowing reviews of our pal, Sawyer Robertson. Going to keep you up here, Sydney. Let's listen to what let me rewind it first. Let's hear what Todd McShay had to say about our guy Sawyer.
This year's Cam Wardby. I love this question. Someone who was projected day 2, day 3 at this same point, who winds up going round 1. Sawyer Robertson has my attention. He throws really well on the move, right and left. He's not a running threat, but he's a lot more mobile than I thought, even watching him at the passing academy, okay? He's just highly accurate throwing the football. The ball's on a string, the intermediate stuff. Just puts it where it needs to go. Throws to spots, between zones, all that stuff. Sawyer Robertson, in a class where I just mentioned, names like Klubnik, Nussmeier, Sellers, Mendoza, Levitt, Aller, Mateer, Arch Manning, we'll see where he comes out. Avery Johnson, Miller Moss, Carson Beck. I haven't heard anything about this guy, but he's a guy that's like not really on the radar that I think as we get closer, he's a name that's going to be in the mix a little bit.
That's not bad. That's not a bad endorsement right there.
I love this.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? I mean, first off, the way he sets it up is what really tickled me. right? And I've seen this once before. I can't remember who the writer was, but I did highlight it on the show. So someone who watched it probably remembers he was the writer who said that, hey, you're looking at Drew Hour, I'm looking at Sawyer Robertson. And he set it up this way of like, we want to know who that Cam Ward's going to be, a guy who was a total non-prospect 2 years ago. And Cam Ward wasn't a huge prospect even going into this past year. Wows everybody at Miami. Weak quarterback class for sure, becomes the number one pick in the draft. That's how Todd McShay lays this out. So I guess my question to you, Sid, is this just the beginning? Is this where we start to see more people diving into the Sawyer Robertson tape and seeing what he's capable of and what we saw all of last year?
I do think a lot of people are going to learn more about Sawyer because what he started last season was only just a little sprinkle of what's to come. Just, thrown out here and there. When I watched this video earlier, I was thinking a little bit about the first season that I covered Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, and just thinking about how even last year or in this most recent NFL draft, like going into the season, like his name was up there to be like top in the draft, but nobody thought he was going to go above Shedeur Sanders. Even in the draft process, nobody thought he was going to go above him. But like he proved himself, obviously did great in his interviews, and when he met with different teams and stuff, things went really well. But Sawyer's one of those guys who even after the season's over is going to impress a lot of people when he goes to do interviews or show out for different teams because of the person that he is. And a lot of people really do look for character, and that does stand out. And I think we saw that in this draft most recently, and how they did put Sanders down quite a bit because of his interview process. So I think that's going to help him a lot, but just with what he started and building off of it and having the talent he does around him, it's a tough quarterback class this year. It's going to be good. There's so many talented guys, but Sawyer has every reason to be in the mix and one of the top names among them.
Now, without getting into like the deep X's and O's of it, because I can't do that. Just as people who watched basically every snap he took last year, and Sydney's on the couch every day in the summer watching back all 11, just watching back all the tape. But like, it felt like we were almost ahead of something, because there were points last year where I wasn't begging for the Sawyer Robertson attention like I kind of have in the offseason. But I've been like, why aren't more people talking about him? Like, maybe this is just a Baylor derangement syndrome, and we haven't seen a quarterback this good at Baylor in a long time. Almost 10 years. He's better than Charlie Brewer. But I was like, why aren't people noticing this? So what is it to you that you're just like, this part of his game, like, this is just electric from Sawyer Robertson? This is where I'm like, he's got us. Is there any part of his game that stands out to you like that?
I just feel like his connection, like his ability to pass and connect the way that he does with his wide receivers is pretty impressive to me. And it's not even with his wide receivers. He freaking chucks the ball to his tight ends, like whatever, like he's finding whatever. And like the way he's able to read the field is just like so impressive. You can tell how intelligent he is. The Quarterback Show on Netflix, I think, has been like such an eye opener for so many people into like how quarterbacks' minds work. And I love it because it like kind of helps me even understand like what they're thinking, the thought process that goes into it. And Sawyer is just like such a smart guy, but I love his creativity too. Like, I know people don't like when he runs, but he's creative and he will get himself out and he'll do it. So that's like, I don't know. I think he's so smart, and it like really impresses me every time I watch him.
Yeah, man. I got like coming out of high school, and when he came out of the portal, because I didn't pay attention to his recruitment to Mississippi State, apologies. But when he came out of the portal, knowing the kind of offense he played in high school, looking back at some of the tape, you just kind of get the worries that we have with some of the Art Briles quarterbacks of like, they're not deadly accurate. They need to go against his own defense. They need to throw to spots, not to guys. And I think Sawyer Robertson's better than that. Like, he puts some zip on the ball. It's not the hardest thrower in the draft or anything like that, but he puts some real zip on it. He can thread a needle through some tight windows. And like you said, he can run. Like he's not going to be Devin Dampier. He's not going to be Avery Johnson. I thank God for that because he's better than both those guys. But he can really get out of the pocket and he can move. Todd McShay was talking about that a little bit in the breakdown. Like this guy can make things happen, right?
He can, and his leadership and his ability to do it also speaks volumes of the kind of QB that he is. He's a good one. He's such a I have so much respect for him. Like I've said, just as a human, but also as the kind of player that he is, because he is talented. Also, I want to point out the fact that he was at Mississippi State under a Mike Leach program. You have to be a darn good quarterback for Mike Leach to notice you. So yeah, he's got something special to be noticed by a guy like him.
And Texas Tech still licking their wounds out there in Lubbock. He's right down the road, Tech family, and they couldn't get it done. Oof, that's got to be tough. I've said it before. I will definitely say it again throughout the season. I'm talking directly to you guys, the Baylor fans. Live this up, man. This is it felt like when I first got here in the Bryles era, we were just going to have a great offense every year. Going to have a great quarterback every year. It doesn't happen like that, okay? And we're going to get, hopefully, God willing, 2 full years of terrific quarterback play from Sawyer Robertson. And, you know, for whatever it's worth, you know, we go back and we love the Bryce Pettys and the Seth Russells and the Nick Florences of the world. Scouts weren't talking about them like this, okay? You got to go back to RG3 to have scouts talking about a Baylor quarterback this way. And you might not care about what they do at the next level. That's fine. You're a Baylor fan. But all I'm saying is we haven't had a scout talking about a quarterback like this for a long, long time. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. One of the teams they will not be playing this year is Memphis. Okay, we're going to get more into that in a second. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, find us on YouTube, wherever you find your podcast. Get involved in the comment section below. Let us know what you think about Sawyer Robertson and the potential to be the number 1 pick in the draft. That's all I can say. That's all I can read between the lines with this Todd McShay thing is he thinks he's going to go number 1 overall. Let us know down in the comment section below. They will not be playing Memphis. Who would you rather have if you can't have the Memphis Tigers? Let's talk about that next on Locked On Baylor. All right, Sydney. Big 12 stuffed Memphis in a locker. Kind of went over the reasons why yesterday. I think it's almost past a lot of the athletic stuff. Like, I know people just threw this in the comment section of the tweets and the videos, just probably to be funny. But, like, Memphis is a tough place to go and visit. And that's probably a bit on their radar. But they've also had all these violations with the men's basketball program and Penny Hardaway. It's just a headache they probably don't want to deal with in the Big 12, no matter how much money they bring in. Before asking who would you want to add, are you adding Memphis if you're in Brett Yormark's shoes?
No, at least not right now. Taking like the travel, like literally just sticking to the athletic side of it. I think about where the Big 12 is at right now, and I just don't know if Memphis necessarily fits that mold currently. I think maybe in the future, if they keep it up, I mean, I know I've seen them projected to possibly be in the top 25 this season. Like there is a lot of potential for them across the board, but we always have to remember it's more than just football. It comes down to basketball, soccer, volleyball. Like it literally, I mean, football is the biggest driver when it comes to money and stuff, but we do have to factor in all those other things. And I think when it comes to all the other sports across the board, I just don't think they fit the Big 12 right now.
And just like, what do they add? Like at the end of the day, with this proposal, they're going to add money, which is what it's all about. Don't get me wrong. But like, seriously, what does Memphis add? They're not adding you a region, really. I mean, it's in SEC country, but like, you know, we've got 3 teams in Texas, which is now SEC country. You know what I mean? We've got teams in Big 10 country. You know, we've got them in Cincinnati and Iowa State. So like, what does Memphis add? You know, I don't think they had anything. Am I wrong? Am I missing something?
I don't want to be mean, but no, you're so right. Like
it happens, man. It happens. School conferences will be saying that about Baylor, to be honest. Like, you know, they just don't add anything to this conference right now, right?
Yeah, just right. And like I think so much about during the Big 12 media days, just all that your Mark was talking about, how many close games the Big 12 had, how competitive it was, how many like overtime thrillers they had, or like he went on a tangent about all these things that made the Big 12 so special just last season alone and how they competed. And when you think about those numbers and you think about how Memphis fits in, it just doesn't add up to me. It doesn't make sense for right now. Like I said, maybe in the future, but it just right now it just doesn't seem like Memphis is the fit for the Big 12.
No. All right, so let's put the fantasy factory hat on here, okay? I want Sydney just like baseline rationale, okay? We don't need to go deep into numbers or tradition or history, but it's got to have some semblance of making some sense. If I gave you the prompt of if the Big 12 were to add any one school right now and Sydney Wicker's the commissioner, what school is getting added?
I have been thinking about this since before we started recording. This was such a tough question for me, which is good because I love questions that really make you think.
Yeah.
And I think if anybody could ever get Notre Dame to commit to a conference, why not the Big 12? I think with the run they went on last year and how they could compete and talk about teams that you could like mold or make fit in, I would love to see Notre Dame, and they're good in women's basketball. They're, like they're competitive in all like other sports. Like I think that would be such a fun addition to the Big 12. But they're on their high horse in their independent league or whatever. They like to live in their own world.
Yeah,
I would,
ACC
and
and the
everybody
other things,
has them in like the ACC. Yeah, but like why not the Big 12? We can grab teams from anywhere. It seems like these days. So
I like that. I was not expecting
Thank
that.
you. I know. I kind of just came up with that on the spot a couple minutes ago
Because
when
like
I was thinking about it.
because like everything points to they should be in the Big Ten, but they should have been in the Big Ten 90 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's happening. They don't want to be tied down to that. Even maybe just like a schedule agreement, like you saw with the old Pac-12 teams this year. Did it with whatever it was, the Mountain West, I guess. I would kind of love that. Like, and I feel like Brett Yormark should be able to work with them. Like, all right, keep your lame butt USC game and your Boston College game and your Navy game, but mix in 4 of us.
Yeah.
I don't want to say take your pick because I don't know. Lord only knows who they'd pick. They'd just be like, Houston, Arizona, Cincinnati. Yeah. Pick 4 of us. And let's get this partnership going. Brett Yormark might be crazy enough to do that. I kind of like that.
You can draw some inspiration from your very own Locked On Baylor podcast.
I mean, maybe this is inspiring me to do a whole nother segment at some point in next week. I'm sure, like in the summer schedule, let's look for stuff to talk about. But I like that idea. It's not too crazy. It's not too crazy geographically. Everything's crazy geographically now, but this is not Cal and Stanford to the ACC. This is,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they can Cincinnati, they're not really close to anybody, but they're not across the country. This might be something here. Notre Dame.
Did you have an answer, Cam?
Yeah, not a good one. Not a good one. No, I mean, no, because I hate a lot of teams. I would say the one that I came closest to for the answer was probably Louisville.
Okay.
Because it would give you kind of all the benefits that you would get from Memphis, but then some. That they have rebuilt that men's basketball program. That's a good men's basketball program under Pat Kelsey. It's been a terrific little run in football. They're a legit football program out there in Louisville now. The thing that I don't like, and I do get bogged down in this maybe more than I should, it's really not a good academic school. We do have a couple of those in the Big 12, not naming names, Kansas State, not naming any more names than that, because there are a couple, but that would kind of bring it down a little bit. But like, I think that or Pitt, which is kind of a wild card too, but I like having Pitt, West Virginia. And you throw them up there, West Virginia, Cincinnati. There's some geographic sense there. I just look at these ACC schools who are probably going to want to ditch. I think those two make a little bit more sense than someone like a North Carolina. Although I'm never going to say no to adding a school like North Carolina. I just feel like those are a little bit more realistic. And I went against my own prompt a little bit and got too realistic. I like the Notre Dame one better.
I know. When you made me think about it, I was like, I'm gonna think hard on this, and I was like, I like Notre Dame.
And like something to take into account. Notre Dame's a very good school academically.
Mhm.
It's also a religious school, and obviously that doesn't come into play a ton, especially when like nobody looks at them as a Catholic school so much as one of the great college football programs in America. But if you're going to come anywhere as a religious school, like the Big 12's got you. We got
Mhm.
Baylor, we got BYU, we have the skeleton of TCU, the school formerly known as Texas Christian University. It's in the Bible Belt. Like we've got you covered here. You're
Yeah.
not gonna like that's not like going to the Pac-12 and they're just gonna turn their nose up at you. So I think most conferences would overlook that for Notre Dame, but it's something. I don't want to give away the whole rest of my new segment next week, but I do
I'm
like that
glad
a
I
lot.
could inspire you, Cam.
I do like that a lot. That would be awesome. That is gonna be fun to
I
watch.
want to see football Jesus so bad. So this is my
Touchdown.
own.
Yeah.
Like, let's just schedule a home and home at least. Like, come on.
Dude, I did real quick before we end this. One of my good friends from Baylor married a woman who went to Notre Dame. And so they did their wedding at Notre Dame, and the reception was in the football stadium. I was a pig in excrement, I'll tell you. Like, I think Notre Dame plays it up way too much, but as a huge college football fan, and as you know well by now, a history nerd, like I was in this, man. I was like, where's the new Rockney statue? I want to see something George Gipp in here. Like, I want to go through the Four Horsemen. Me and my buddy took a picture next to the Four Horsemen, like the night before they did a dinner in this like bougie sports bar inside the stadium that's all old Notre Dame stuff. So yes, I would take that in a Baylor trip to Notre Dame, which they have not done since 2000 or so.
Wow.
Dave Roberts was the coach. Someone is going to be my ombudsman in the comment section. Dave Roberts was the coach. He used to coach at Notre Dame, and the legend was that he brought them the night before they walked around Notre Dame's campus, and Dave Roberts was like me at my friend's wedding, just like telling them how great Notre Dame is and all this great history and stuff. And the Baylor players are like, we're supposed to be playing them tomorrow, right? Like, we do want to beat them. Dave Roberts, not very well liked amongst the Baylor community, but I believe that was the last time they played Notre Dame. Could be in the future if Sydney Wicker gets elected as Brett Yormark's replacement for the Big 12 commissioner. Sydney, you got my vote.
Thank you so much.
For whatever that's worth. We've waxed too poetic about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, but it's a great idea. I love
that
it.
is so tough for me as somebody who has watched many Michigan Notre Dame games.
Oh, yeah.
But it fit.
It
Took
would
my
fit.
bias out of it.
Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Notre Dame to the Big 12. Let us know. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, find us on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast as well. That is Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6. I am Cam Stuart. We will see you on the next one of Locked On Baylor.